Hey everyone, this is acyuta-bhava from Nightlight Astrology. Happy Friday, everybody. I hope you guys are gearing up for a nice weekend. Today we are going to take a look at a number of aspects that are forming simultaneously. Mars is making a sextile with Jupiter today, as it is also moving into a trine with Uranus. Jupiter and Uranus are moving into a sextile with one another, and Mars and Venus are coming together. Saturn is conjoining the Sun. Mercury is turning direct. Mercury is going back into a conjunction with Pluto. Lots of planetary dynamics all happening at once. We're going to take a kind of big picture view of some of those dynamics today and give you a sense of what they may bring with them in terms of their significations and combinations over the weekend and into next week. So let's begin by putting the real-time clock up. Okay, so first of all, let's notice that the lovers, Venus and Mars, are preparing to come into a conjunction with one another. It's going to take a little while. Let's fast forward this just a little bit. You're going to see that the two of them come together. Here they're starting to come together about February 14th, and Mars actually crosses over Venus by February 16th, so right around Valentine's Day. So the lovers are coming together in the sky, and that's generally a good sign. The baseline of this interpretation is going to be rooted in the fact that whatever Mars is doing, it's doing so as it's coming together with Venus. It's an exalted Mars coming together with the Venus who's just finished its retrograde. It's now in the morning star position. It's in an earth sign. This is very practical collaborations, joining together with other people, finding solutions to problems, being able to work through tensions, resolving things, asking for help, and finding harmony. Those are some of the basic things, not creative tension, sexual, erotic tension, romantic tension, but also cooperation overall. So it's very productive. You're going to see a lot of things solidify and take shape and actually get done. That's due to an exalted Mars and also the earthiness of Capricorn. Now, that forms a sort of bedrock of the interpretation, but look at what else is happening. Here you have a sextile from Mars to Jupiter, a trine from Mars to Uranus, and a sextile from Jupiter to Uranus that are all forming. Now, let's watch how those are going to play out. Take this forward a little bit, and Mars is sextiling Jupiter today, and this is on February 4th. And then Mars will move through the trine with Uranus by February 8th. That's next Tuesday. So the next 4 or 5 days here, we have a nice series of aspects from Mars to Jupiter to Uranus as the conjunction with Venus is continuing to form. So it is as though an agreement, a bond, a karmic contract of some kind, a space of resolution and cooperation is being formed right now. Resources are being gathered. One of the reasons we would say that is because Mars sextiling Jupiter, who is also in its own sign. Remember, sextiles are of the nature of Venus. So we have the idea of good fortune here, the idea of beneficial, joyful connections and harmonization between a very productive, hardworking, goal-oriented Mars, who's trying to come together with Venus, and a very benefic planet in Jupiter. Jupiter, again, was the planetary ruler or the planet that was said to rejoice in the 11th house, which was called the house of friends. Now, generally speaking, what that meant was, colleagues, associates, people who could potentially offer benefits or give us something of support. So Mars is connecting essentially with a powerful resource, and it is powerful in its own right already. It's an exalted planet. Then it's going to connect in a trine with Uranus. So you're talking about a sextile with Jupiter. So sextiles are of the nature of Venus. So you have harmony with a planet that loves to provide resources, and then a trine, which is of the nature of Jupiter, with Uranus, who likes to provide breakthroughs when it's especially in any kind of positive dynamic with Mars. Mars is, this is what I desire, this is what I'm doing, this is what I want to get, this is where, it's very active and assertive. And then Uranus tends to provide breakthroughs, originality, breaking the mold, innovation, the sudden flash insight that in this case will lend itself to whatever Mars is trying to get done. So it's fast, it's rapid, it's collecting resources, it's harmonizing, it's pulling in new and interesting ideas. It's eccentric, it's unexpected. There's some sudden plot twists or changes, but really they look to be working toward union and synthesis, all of these planetary dynamics right now. So this is very positive overall. In the background, remember that as all of these aspects are forming, the sun is still with Saturn and separating from Saturn. So as Mars is trying to come together with Venus, it is very possible that there will be some level of sacrifice or compromise that needs to be made. For example, the Sun-Saturn's ideal for what it wants to do, the sun as a source of action and inspiration and holds out some kind of ideal image, right now may feel challenging. And so we see Mars coming together with Venus, sextiling Jupiter, trining Uranus, and we might be seeing the effort involved in making something happen, putting together the ideal project or putting together the ideal situation somehow, making the ideal manifest, but it's taking some work. You have to make some compromises. There's compromising sacrifices, let's call it, or there's having to work through some blocks or limitations. The nice thing is that, okay, you might be working through some frustrations or some temporary constraints or limits, or setbacks or frustrations or delays. But generally speaking, the planets are gathering resources right now and moving into convergences that should be able to overcome or surmount this. We see this by the very fact that the breakthrough of Mars and Uranus happens just as the sun is moving out of the engagement range or the adherence range of 3 degrees with Saturn. So just as the sun is moving out of Saturn's sphere, you could say, then we see Mars hitting Uranus, and that has the sign of a breakthrough around it. So I think, generally speaking, we're looking at a confluence of positive forces meant to solve problems, help us move toward things that we want or desire. It's a good confluence of energies. There might be some compromising sacrifices that have to be made, or some allegiances or different resources pulled together to make something work. But if we keep an open mind and we're willing to make some compromises and work with other people and find those harmonizing energies, then I think things look pretty good. So overall, those are my big picture impressions. But I want to talk a little bit about what the I Ching has to say. So the I Ching I cast this morning with this confluence of planetary aspects in mind, and it came back hexagram number 45, which is sometimes, often actually translated as gathering together. This hexagram signifies gathering together. It indicates flourishing grasses and refers to the gathering of one species. The upper trigram is a marsh and the lower is earth. A marsh over earth signifies water irrigating the soil, which allows the grasses to flourish. The internal trigram is submissiveness and people, while the external trigram is joy and persuasion. A pleasant expression accompanied by genuine internal submission is signifying, suggesting people massing around a leader with heartfelt admiration in response to his persuasion. The internal hexagram, wild geese migrating in an orderly manner. Its changing hexagram is large storage. The power will be largely consolidated after people gather together. Conversely, they enhance and discipline each other after they have gathered together. By discipline, it means like create order. So here you have the idea in this hexagram of exactly what all of my, I just think the I Ching is so amazing in the sense that everything you just heard me talk about and the gist of my notes, I gather those together before I cast a hexagram. Then the hexagram comes up and it either confirms or adjusts or offers some kind of juxtaposing idea or image for me to think about usually. And I'm always amazed by how closely the most basic elements of the planetary energies, if we just delineate them along the most basic lines, will fit with what the I Ching often feeds back. So for example, in this one, we have the image of a group of people coming together and setting aside differences because of the ability to organize around something that everyone finds joyful and that everyone has in common, that constitutes like a joyful gravitational center. And in order to do so, of course, some differences have to be set aside and some compromises have to be made. That's a big part of this hexagram. Here's what the overview says. Gathering entails smooth progress and will advance smoothly if it heeds the right advice. People are expected, oh, this is ancient China, right? People are expected to gather when the king arrives at the shrine to undertake the sacrificial ceremony exhibiting legitimacy, which requires smooth progress. It is advantageous or appropriate to have a skilled person present when people are gathering. This way, the gathering will be orderly and progress smoothly. It's advantageous or appropriate to gather based on a righteous cause. And then all virtuous and able people will join in. It's auspicious to worship with sacrificial offerings. So you notice how there's the idea of people setting aside differences, having to make some compromises, some kind of sacrificial offering that's made as a way of joining everyone to, in a similar way, to a similar ideal or a trajectory. So and that's what's really in the air right now, this idea of how can I find something that where can I, if you think of the hexagram image, it's like these waters pooling together in earth to create these rich grasses that grow out. So at any rate, will and power are united. It is instrumental in undertaking what is intended. So when virtuous and able people come together, set aside differences, make some sacrifices, and unite with a common cause, that power is in the right place, and advantage, persistence, smooth progress are all sort of promised. But you do need either a leader or a unifying mission or vision or something like that. And there could be some dissent or disagreement as to exactly what that entails. But I think right now what we're seeing is the willingness to compromise and cooperate, that there's some eagerness to ask for help or to seek it out. So that could be, and that could be happening in any area of life, right? That could be happening in home or marriage, or that could be happening at work, or could be happening when it comes to taking care of your body or your health or your relationship with your children or something your children are needing. The first line was changing, and the first line says, sincerity and trust do not last to the end. This disturbs your gathering. In the case of crying out for joining, a hand clasp turns this into a smile. No need to worry. There is no calamity or fault in going forward. So another one that I really like, a translation, a number of translations all aggregated in one place, can be found on James DeCorn's website. I really like this. He has lots of different translations all gathered together. Oh, that's funny. In one place. So this one goes like this. If you are sincere, but not to the end, there will sometimes be confusion, sometimes gathering together. If you call out, then after one grasp of the hand, you can laugh again. Regret not, going is without blame. The first line, magnetic, shows its subject with a sincere desire for union, but unable to carry it out, so that disorder is created. If they cry out for help, all at once tears will vanish and give rise to smiles. Do not mind the temporary difficulty, as you will go forward and there will be no error. This is interesting because it also suggests the potential, this line does, suggest the potential for there to be some hesitancy or some sense of confusion or doubt. And it says, this hexagram, the way I read it, this line in particular says, look, it's fine if you feel doubt. It's fine if you're hesitant. It's fine if you have some misgivings or lack of trust even. If you sincerely express those things, you may find right now that there is a willingness on the part of others to help you and to say, oh, thank you for expressing that. You're all good. Here's the deal. And maybe explain something that needs explaining, or maybe take a moment to hear you and really make you feel heard. And then from there, the doubt, the worry, the feeling of being alienated, do I belong here? Can I participate in something? Is this going to work? Can turn from a doubt or a hesitation into trust, sincere, and a sincere connection with others. So I also see this right now, especially with the Sun and Saturn conjoining. Mercury's turning direct again in a Saturn ruled sign, moving through the conjunction with Pluto. Venus and Mars are going to take a little time to get together as these other resources are being gathered through the sextiles and trines. I see this as a moment that says, look, you're going to get where you're going through sincerity and trust, but that doesn't mean that you can't openly express your doubts, your hesitations, your worries or concerns. If you don't openly express it and ask for help, it'll create disorder and chaos and confusion. If you openly express it and ask for help, you may find that the people or situation that you have some doubt with is way more accommodating than you could imagine. So on that note, I think that there is a piece of advice in the transits of the moment, especially with the Sun and Saturn present, Mercury with Pluto, that says, you know what, my doubt, my misgiving, I can't say it. I shouldn't say it. I should keep it within, and then it crystallizes into a judgment. So it seems like there's a lot of productivity and compromise and willingness to work together right now that can be found, but you have to openly express it. I thought I'd do one more thing today with all of these transits perfecting. I thought I'm going to draw a card from the tarot. I'm going to draw one card, and then I'm going to draw two cards that are competing for that one card's attention. And here's what came back. The Queen is the central card, the Queen of Wands. Queen of Wands in the tarot is, I like to think of it as a sensible feminine strength. Like if I think about this, I think about like a strong, queenly energy, right? So leadership, will, power, but also a sensitivity, a grace, and an emotional intelligence that the queens all tend to have, but one that's forged through strength. So it's like strength, compassion, wisdom, all in one space. It's a very strong sort of matriarchal energy. And then you have two competing energies for the queen's attention right now. So let's just say if the queen represents something of one's sovereignty and the concern that one has, am I and are my emotions, let me just see if I can get the camera back to my face, am I and are my emotions, my feelings, my needs, my desires being adequately considered, or am I going to lose myself? Am I checking in with myself? And there's a sense of, is everything in the right place? I think of the queen as strong, but a lot of concern and protectiveness that the Queen of Wands tends to exhibit. So there's that concern, that energy of concern and wanting to do something, exhibit, or demonstrate power, will, assertiveness, get something done. Queens like to get things done in my experience. But there's also, a concern. Is this, am I doing things correctly? There's a question of power and executive function, but also concern and care and empathy and compassion and things like that. So the two competing energies, one is the Magician, the other is the Page of Cups. So you've got these two energies competing on either side of the Queen. So on the one hand, I look at the Magician card, right? And I think to myself, okay, here's the creative impulse to make something happen. You see all of the different elements of the suits of the tarot on the table in front of the Magician. So let's say the Queen on the one hand is thinking to herself, I need to pull a lot of different things together in order to create something. Okay. That's one tension that's happening, the need to collaborate and be creative in the use of different elements, different people, different factors. And that's a tension because the Queen, there's integrity, there's leadership, there's a sense of duty and also self-respect and pride that's on the line. And so that's that might be a tough thing to balance, different elements in a creative project or a seeking of some kind of creative synthesis. But on the other hand, you have the Page of Cups. And while the other two cards to me really speak to mastery. See, the thing is I'm trying to make sure I get the camera back to my face and in focus. There we go. While I look at the Queen and the Magician as mastery and a creative project that takes a lot of juggling and careful balance, the other thing is that the Page of Cups, in my mind, is very much about emotional zeal and excitement and enthusiasm and a youthful springing up of unseen or unexpected dynamics. For example, you often see the Page of Cups pop out, the little fish popping its head out of the cup when an unexpected pregnancy arrives. I look at this and I go, okay, there are unexpected energies that are less able to be controlled. There is emotional enthusiasm that the Queen of Wands, as a kind of elder, feminine, fiery figure, along with the Magician, may not feel as comfortable with. So how do you balance the youthful emotional exuberance and excitement and enthusiasm and some of the unexpected, inspirational, imaginative qualities of the Page of Cups, along with the juggling act, the careful balancing of different elements implied by the Magician, and the seat of authority and concern about dignity, integrity, and not losing oneself or one's position that the Queen of Wands may have. So I look at these cards and I see something very similar to what the I Ching is saying. Like, it's not easy to bring different kinds of people and themes and resources in our lives together, but there's probably a call to do so. There's some kind of primordial inspiration that's coming through, and the desire to make something work, along with trying to be careful that we don't get swept away with enthusiasm, that we're doing the right thing, that we're maintaining some sense of centeredness. And I don't like the word sovereignty because I feel like it's often used in ways that are very selfish, but let's just use that word right now. And let's say not losing our sense of personal sovereignty to make decisions, to feel strong, to not lose ourselves, to make sure we're doing the right thing. And I think the best advice comes back to openly express to people and circumstances around you your hesitations without judgment, without criticism, just openly, and even in the spirit of asking for help or support or just to be heard. And I think we'll find that things are more willing to converge and compromise than we may initially think. Although some level of sacrifice is probably implied, given that the sun is also conjoining Saturn. And that's a transit that almost always requires some sacrifice for the sake of the magnum opus. So those are some of the energies that I'm seeing, trying to tie some threads together, multiple planetary energies that are coalescing at this moment. I'd love to hear from you guys. Any stories that you have to share, use the hashtag grabbed, put together any of those planetary aspects, whether it's Mars, Jupiter, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Uranus. We're going to be talking more about Jupiter, Uranus next week for sure. That's a huge transit, one of the bigger transits of the year, in my opinion. Two slow moving planets that are very dynamic and positive when they come together in sextiles and trines in particular. So we'll be taking a look at that more next week, but at least sort of priming the pump, so to speak, to get the water flowing next week as we look more at each of these dynamics as they unfold. I think next week is probably where we're going to start really feeling the results of a lot of this, but you'll start noticing it coming in over the weekend. So that's what I've got for you for today. Don't forget, my teachers, Loka and Vidarbha, have a new program on the Bhagavad Gita that they are offering. This is a class that I highly recommend. You can find it on their website, bhaktywise.com. This is a class that they offer once or twice a year. It's called Unlocking the Mysteries of the Bhagavad Gita. And it is a 12-week introductory class to the Bhagavad Gita. All of the courses are recorded. It is a class by donation. There's a suggested donation, but you can donate whatever you can to attend. They have an option if you're in India. There's I think it's 5,000 rupees or something like that. But suggested donation is $99, but you can donate whatever you want if you wish to attend this class. We had a couple of hundred people from YouTube last year who attended the class and absolutely loved it. A good number of my students attended. It's a 12-week course learning about bhakti yoga and studying the Bhagavad Gita with two of my teachers who are very dear to me, Loka and Vidarbha. I think you will love this class. So be sure to check it out and sign up. You can pay what you want if you can't afford the suggested donation. It's a great program. and I will be advertising it for the next couple of weeks before the program starts. All of the classes are recorded too if you can't attend the live webinars. All the information is on the website, bhaktywise.com. All right, that's what I've got for you guys. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you on Monday. Bye, everyone.